Guys, it's finally time. It's time to move on.
Chapter 800. Now, of course, there were some people out there who thought something major, other than the formation of the Straw Hat Grand Fleet, was going to happen. And for those people, sadly, you are disappointed. Or are you? Dun dun dun! See, the thing here is that, there, honestly, two major insane things happened in this chapter. First, obviously, the formation of the Straw Hat Grand Pirate Fleet was
Yeah.
formed. Didn't necessarily have to take up the entire chapter of going back and forth over it, but it happened.
Mhm.
Luffy now has a pirate fleet, and apparently Oda decided to sneak in his new bounty casually.
Yeah. Which we're assuming at this point is 500 million. Just weird translations, but right now I think 500
I
million
mean,
is the safe bet.
I would pretty safe figuring other translations translated it as 5 million.
And I heard there was one that was 5 billion, which is like no, not that
No,
quick.
no, not that threatening yet.
No.
Not even. I don't even think like what is. I know Dragon is the most wanted man in the world, but I don't even think. I think is what made. We haven't even seen his bounty. I don't think.
No. The highest we've seen so far is actually Aces at 550, apparently.
Well, that was his supposed bounty when he was a.
Yeah.
But anyway, and what is the other major thing? This chapter is a beginning and an ending. It is the end of the long awaited end of the Dressrosa arc, and the beginning of to not to try. This might sound a little cheesy, but a whole new world.
Yeah.
It's really like because now Luffy has a pirate fleet, and they're gonna be moving on and get inching themselves closer, possibly even in the next arc, starting a war with one of the Yonko.
Mhm.
And it's just the possibilities are endless at this point. Like I've seen some pretty interesting theories, of One Piece about where we're going to go from this point. And I think one of the more interesting ones was presented as a part of a theory as to who the next generation of Yonko are going to be.
Uh-huh.
Now, in this, the person said that the reason why the Yonko are going to be um, taken out and replaced is because there's going to be a war between two warring sides where you're going to have Luffy for some reason teaming up with Big Mom and Shanks to take on Kid, Kaido, and Blackbeard.
Huh.
Now that's like, excuse me. And in the process of this war, Shanks, Big Mom, and Kaido all get taken out, leaving
Okay.
Blackbeard as the only returning emperor. So I'm like, what?
Yeah, that's a
Shanks
bit.
is not. But it presented an interesting three Yonkos. Now, obviously, one of them, other than Blackbeard, is going to be Luffy.
Uh-huh.
Because just like with this chapter and how Luffy unwittingly, without his permission, gained a pirate fleet, he's going to become a Yonko, with even though he doesn't want to be one.
Yeah.
The other one the other fan favorite for a new Yonko, Eustace Kid.
Mhm.
Now, I only said this as now for the final Yonko this person suggested was going to take rise in power as the fourth and final Yonko in this quote unquote new generation of Yonko. I sort of this person actually said something selected someone I actually said, and it was only half serious. they predicted that if this scenario were to happen, where we're gonna get a massive overhaul of the Yonko, that one of them, new ones, would be Buggy the Clown.
Oh yeah. I mean,
And I like,
it actually doesn't make sense.
I know it's like, but most people, that thought doesn't even cross their mind, that, but it works perfectly because that's his gimmick.
Uh-huh. Of course.
That's like, he, when you first saw him in back in, was it Orangetown, I think it was, and he was a villain, but after that it was like he was comic relief, and what part of his gag became that people just started following him for no reason,
Yeah.
and so he's gained fame and acclaim and garnered a reputation as, because of the powerful people he's been able to gather under his crew.
Yeah.
So, and now he's a warlord. So it wouldn't be too far of a stretch that he somehow, without even trying to, ends up being like recruiting some powerful people, and then he's like, "Oh, Buggy's a Yonko."
Yep.
So,
I wouldn't put it past him. I mean, it's Buggy after all. He was on Roger's crew.
well, yeah, I mean, that's why it's like, okay, if Shanks is this badass, why can't Buggy be this badass?
I think that's the joke, is that
Yeah, I know.
he's on Roger's crew, yet he's so fucking pathetic. And
Well, I
yet
mean,
everybody thinks he's not. It's like
everyone thinks he's powerful because of the people he keeps under him.
he honestly, his devil fruit is actually pretty good, though.
But
It's a shame that it's almost like wasted on somebody who's just not powerful, because that could be a really good devil fruit in the hands of a really good person. Oh my gosh,
I mean, a really skilled person.
that's what I mean, of course.
hmm Now, all of this, you're like saying to yourself, well, what does this have to do with the chapter? Well, it's exactly what the chapter's about. It's We are now finally ending Dressrosa, and moving on to a new journey in the new world, where
Hmm.
we'll meet we'll meet more new characters, encounter new plot lines, new villains, and the story the plot of the rest of the story is too unpredictable.
Yeah.
Now, one of the things, I mean, there was obviously some funny moments when you had Luffy and the alliance, or the fleet representatives, arguing back and forth, especially with Zoro with the booze.
Yep.
Being Zoro,
He's the one who drank all the sake. So I guess you know what that means.
they're following Zoro.
Yep. Zoro is the one with the fleet, but he's
Yeah,
under Luffy, so it's Luffy's by transitive property.
yep. And then we had Fujitora, which I thought was cool. He just like, oh, I'm gonna bring the debris now down. Oh, it's conveniently missed. It just can't seem to hit you guys, but these other guys that came here to get you, they're getting hit.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny. And then he's like, oh well, secretly I like you, and thank you for your help. And then you just see friggin' Sengoku in the background saying, I heard that.
And we get another great face to add to the Fujitora gallery.
Uh-huh. Fujitora just being like, oh shit, did I just say that aloud?
Yeah, I mean, it's not that it really would have mattered because Law was on that ship anyway. So, I mean, he would have just kind of done what he did to the meteor, just used tact on it. But,
But it doesn't matter. I mean, the fact that, well, it's not a meteor, it's debris, but the point is that it doesn't really matter.
yeah,
Sengoku's not gonna say anything because he's turned into Garp. He doesn't care
yeah,
for the most part.
yeah,
And then the last part I want to talk about is that the last thing that was written on the last page by Oda about the whole thing about they will be, make a name for themselves in history of their own, and that they will be you know, the cause of some pretty important events. But that's for now. It's just an untold story.
Hmm.
Um, yeah. Don't try and think you can pull a fast one on me, Oda. I mean, can anybody remember? A bonus question? Does anybody remember the last time he pulled that?
What, the Untold Story thing?
No, about the whole thing about this is the start of a major event.
Uh, I think the ending of Blackbeard, well, the Blackbeard versus Ace fight, right?
Mm-hmm.
When
It
they
was
said like this would start like something that they couldn't have expected or something like that.
exactly, and it's the same. It's a similar situation. So my thing is here is that this is probably the initial. Now it'll probably still take a lot longer than it did for the Blackbeard Ace stuff. Like
Yeah.
that happened pretty quickly, but this will take a lot longer to pan out. But I feel like this would be this event, not just the formation of the crew of this fleet, but the defeat of Doflamingo is going to be the catalyst for the Great World War.
Yeah. Yeah.
That we
I think Kaido basically said that was the case.
Well, it's presumed that when we saw Kaido, at that point he had not heard of Doflamingo's defeat.
Uh-huh.
It just for some reason had something to do with Whitebeard, which doesn't make any sense because Whitebeard's been dead for 2 years. So why
Yeah.
would just now his death be mattering to you, where
I don't
you would
know.
say, "Let's start a war"?
I don't know, but
So
I mean I think it was just implying that there's going to be something going on, and what he now realizes soon would be because of what just happened.
hmm now, like I said, it's going to take time for the final result, but it's going to be like any other domino effect. This is going to directly lead them into doing something else, which will eventually lead them into a series of events that'll lead them to taking on a Yonko. And defeating a Yonko will start another series of events that'll eventually lead up to this great war. So, and the first thing that started it all would be Luffy's defeat, and Luffy and the Straw Hat Pirate Grand Fleet's defeat of the Doflamingo family.
Yeah.
Now, also what it states is that by the fact that they'll make their own name in history, I mean, it pretty much also confirms that yes, they're gonna go their separate ways for now. Like
Mhm.
all this says, they're gonna go their separate ways for now, and we're gonna just focus on the Straw Hats for a little bit.
Yeah.
Hopefully, I mean, this is great and all, but we still need a few more main Straw Hats. Now,
Mhm.
one thing that people like to do, that have been comparing this situation to ever since it was first initiated was saying that, oh, these guys, these representatives, they're like Whitebeard's division commanders, and they can't be that, they're not nearly that strong yet. So no, you got to stop right there, right here and there. This is not Whitebeard. First of all, as my impression believes, Whitebeard's division commanders were powerful members of the main crew that he entrusted to were strong enough and that he trusted enough to take charge of a group of the Whitebeard pirates. To kind of be like, okay, split everyone up into groups. And if Luffy were to do the same thing, he would have to be like the division commanders would be like Zoro, Sanji, Nami, all of them.
Mhm.
So now you're saying, well, then is that going to be separate from these pirate Grand Fleet? Like, no. You want to know why? Because the or should I say, not the division commanders, the new generation, or should I say, the worst generation, has pretty much been about changing the way people deal with piracy in general.
Yeah.
You know, Luffy, everyone's perception of, oh, the Pirate King is one thing, but Luffy, no, he's going about it a whole new way, and none of the other worst generation, minus White Blackbeard, which I don't really know if I should really count him since he's been around for a while,
Mhm.
technically. But the point is that he's the only one who's pretty much followed in Whitebeard's footsteps. I mean, if you want even further confirmation that Whitebeard did was used his main crew as division commanders, just look at Jesus Burgess.
Yeah.
He's part of the main crew and he's the first division commander. So, and Blackbeard copied Whitebeard completely.
Oh yeah.
Even went as far as to immediately take over all of his territory. So
Yeah.
it comes to show you that Blackbeard's trying to be Whitebeard, whereas the rest of the worst generation is trying to do their own thing, and that is why Luffy it's gonna be sort of similar to Whitebeard, but more so his own, but still with his own twist,
Mhm.
because he's Luffy, and it would be boring for it to end up being the same thing.
Yeah.
So overall, this chapter I thought it was pretty good.
Yeah. It was a good chapter. I mean, I know a lot of people had expectations. I personally didn't. So I just whatever. I thought it was fine.
Yeah, and the only thing left to say is what island will we be heading to next?
Yeah. I guess we're just gonna have to find
Or should
out.
I say where we'll end up next? Because they might be trying to head to Zoe, but they might end up getting sidetracked for whatever reason
Of course,
and end
it's
up
One
somewhere
Piece.
else. And especially with the new world where it's expected of you to bounce around back and forth in an irregular pattern. So,
Yeah.
some food for thought.
Yeah.